Hey guys, Ryan here for Nerdarchy, here with my esteemed Nerdarchists.
Dave.
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
And now it's time for an Elfie.
It is. We're gonna take an Elfie. So we were, So we're gonna. This is Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. Getting that to a little late on the draw, but we're gonna get into Elfarchy here because there was some stuff bouncing back and forth. And a concept we had.
So we're going back to our world building.
Well, we are going back to world building, and we had this discussion through Facebook Messenger, like on some concepts of elves. Because hey, it was a video that I wasn't on, right? I was listening to you guys talk about Fae in the world. I was like, oh, these are some good ideas that these Nerdarchy a-holes had about Fae. I got some other ideas about elves from listening to, so I was inspired by our own content.
Well, not only that too, we also came up with some cool ideas when we were talking about terrible terrain, and we the difference between the different kinds of elven homelands,
kingdoms, and that was like leading off of like, well, there's some things that we could do, and then we just further took those two ideas and smashed them together.
And then there were some things we just decided we wanted to rip off.
Yeah, some cool things. And
this is awesome.
Well, so I mean, it really started for me for the fact that elves in RPGs nowadays, they just feel too mundane and ordinary. Like the sort of the Tolkien-ish elf, like, but then even like just the D&D elf these days, it's just like being a different ethnicity in the game. It really, they just feel so mundane. So I wanted to do something in our world that really set them apart and made them feel different. So yeah, we can go.
Okay, so and the trick with that is at the same time of wanting to set them apart and seem different is
we don't want to break the game.
Well, we could break the game, but no, they still have to feel like part of the world.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So that is like the balance. That's the ultimate balancing act.
Right.
So we were going back and forth, and really we were talking about modeling the elves off of this Seelie and Unseelie courts.
Right.
Okay. So giving more that Celtic and maybe even Germanic mythos that was happening. So like Western Europe thing. Western Europe.
Okay, so more away from the Drow High Elf.
Yes and no.
Difference, but making it the difference from their own actually different courts.
So what we wanted to do, like the idea was like, okay, so instead of having the Drow be in the Underdark, what if they
and converted? And the other important thing is like always, Drow elves were cursed elves of the whatever variety they were, right?
Yeah,
they always got the bad.
There were always a split.
Yeah.
We want to take away the split and say no, they were always Drow. They were always dark elves. Instead of being dark elves, there are moon elves.
Right.
Because they come out at night because they're nocturnal essentially.
Okay.
They're part of the moon court, and then we have the sun court.
The court of the sun. Yeah.
Which are the high elves or the Eladrin.
Yeah, the Eladrin. So we're doing this idea is kind of they both came to the prime from the Feywild. Like maybe even we don't have the exact motives of how it happened, but maybe it's like the Transformer things where like either the Autobots or the Decepticons came, and the other's like, well, we can't let them get the upper hand, or we have to watch what they're doing. Yeah. So the other one comes too. So you have the two factions of these two courts, these two societies.
Okay.
The Eldrin and the Drow.
And I definitely, since we're ripping off the Seelie and Unseelie, let's go all the way. I want our Mab and our Aurora.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the whole thing. So this is
Titania.
Titania.
Oh yeah.
So this is the way I see it. We'll pick whichever one decided first, but it discovers the prime material, and it says, well, all right, here's this world that is cultivatable.
You know what? I would think the Moon Elves would go first because conquest is their agenda.
Yeah.
And then like the Sun Elves are like, we have to stop these guys.
Well, and here's my thought, right? So this is the part that can be really cool too.
Yeah.
The High Elves are like the serfs, and they can actually fall under any court.
Yeah.
So they can actually be in with the Drow, or they can be in with the Eladrin, right? And then and then there's like the High Elves, like Hillbilly cousins, the Wood Elves, that can fall under either.
Well, no, what I was thinking about this.
What's that?
Okay, was the idea of like the groups, the sects that start to splinter off and have varying alliances, like you were talking about. But they start to get less Feywild and more attached to the world. Mm-hmm. So they start to become the High Elves. And then the ones that like really bond with the land, that like are almost more in the prime than the High Elves, they become the Wood Elves. So it's just like they're their lineage got less and less anchored, and maybe it's because geographically we're talking about having this massive forest.
So instead of a split from the Drow and the Eladrin, we're gonna have a split from the High Elves and the Wood Elves from the Eladrin or the Drow.
Everything, yeah. So diminishing returns, and it's like the Eladrin look down on all other elven kind of deal.
Just as elves usually look down on humans.
Right.
Maybe that's why High Elves are so freaking haughty.
Yeah. Well, no,
they gotta have somebody to look down on.
Yeah. And so we're doing a thing. I was thinking that like the Drow could even have like a slight cast where like it's almost like their black skin reflects like a white light, like the moon. You know, like just it will do nothing in game, just like and then the Sun Elves have like this luminescence about them that's more emblematic of the sun.
So that's just how they look.
Yeah, and both factions. They can be killed, but they're immortal. The Eladrin and the Drow.
So what happens? They're like reborn, or in
I'm
the
thinking
Feywild?
No, what he's basically saying is they don't die of old age.
they don't die of old age, and maybe they
okay.
don't advance in years beyond like middle age. Like so, they don't degenerate.
Yeah.
They maybe middle aged,
Okay.
and then that's as far as they actually.
And maybe there is only a certain number of them. Then the only way for a new one to come into the world
is for a
for
death.
a violent death.
Yeah. Well, which it happens because these two factions are absolutely at war. Like they have these crazy like accords and treaties. Like, and some of them are just going to be like, you need a decoder ring to figure it out because they're elves, and so it'll be this crazy stuff going on, and they definitely are at war with one and another. I was thinking this idea of, so if you're captured of one of the two factions, you can take an oath that you're bound to the other one for a term of time, maybe 10 years, maybe 25 or whatever, where you're in their servitude. And they actually have like military ranks of the ones that they captured from one another. Like it's not common to take the oath.
Like a bondsman.
Yeah, so not every elf chooses to take the oath. Some would rather die then, but some do. They're like, well, it's either this or death.
Right.
And so there's legions of one another's troops that are absolutely loyal to the other one. But if they meet on the battlefield, the faction that they're originally from will, without hesitation, kill them because that's the only way to release them from the oath.
Right.
And they're like, that's a nobler end.
Well, and not only that, too, it replenishes their numbers because then another one can be reborn.
Yeah, right.
So, now, I want us to consider one thing first. Like, don't get so wrapped up in the story that you create two player races that are now not really playable.
Why are they not playable?
Well, because if there's all this other stuff in allegiances, we have to make sure they have a reason to go out into the world, and then they still have to interact with the rest of the world.
Dude, like, I mean, you could have the two-player, like, the Drow and the Eladrin, like, the one's, like, bonded to the other one. Like, I mean, it actually gives rationale for people to play Drow.
You could also have it be a set series of time where you're allowed, kind of like if you're familiar with the Amish, how they let the young
where they go out into the world.
Yeah, they go out into the world and
Yeah.
they'll come back.
Yeah.
Or they might stay in the world. But
I mean, they're not
there's
absolutely
kind of like that.
They're not absolutely bound to stay. There's lots of stuff, and some of the people are
you
just
said bound to service.
Yeah.
Therefore,
No.
like,
The oath takers are. That's a very specific thing outside of.
but I suppose, like, all right, I play an Eladrin. I was sent on a mission by my kin to infiltrate and get information from the Drow court, and I failed. Well, now I'm, I don't want to die, so I take the oath to the Drow, and I'm bound. Okay, well, you either have to serve for 25 years or do this quest. Okay, well, I'll do this quest. Hey, there's my hook into the party.
Right, and then you complete the quest and you're out of the campaign forever.
No.
You're still bound.
Then I'm no longer bound to the Drow. I'm free to go do whatever I want.
So, but my point is, right, if there's these hard, fast allegiances, we have to be careful that they don't limit them. Again, if we have the two courts, does that mean that you can be called back to court at any time? And
Well, I mean,
so there's different considerations, is all I'm saying, going forward.
Just have civilian and military, in a sense.
Yeah.
Like you're maybe those kind of things. It's only worth. You can't capture a servant and be like, now you're bonded to us for 25 years or death. Like you have to. It's more of like
You have to be serving
knights
in the
or
actual
some
army.
kind of
Maybe it's a certain rank.
like
yeah.
certain rank of, and beyond.
So
like
all
under
I'm
that,
saying
you can
is,
be like a
when you come
civilian.
up with the story, no matter how incredible the story is, you still have to have it interact with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I agree.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make.
I agree with that point.
And then we should just keep that as a consideration, always on the back burner. But yeah, and I like the two courts. I think it's different. So I would rather see I don't know if I want open warfare because it's messy, and it's not I prefer more like the Cold War
Yeah,
stuff.
that's what I was gonna suggest.
And really, I would think elves would look down on that.
I would
open
think,
warfare.
I would think
It's
at
so
times,
clumsy and human.
at some times skirmishes may occur, but by and large it could be like the same thing with Victorian society or whatever. People rarely did much, but sometimes there was duels or whatever. Sometimes they did go to war.
And
Well,
it could also
yeah,
be where
well,
the Prime is more of
Neutral ground?
neutral in a sense, where in the Feywild they're fighting for something. I don't know, a piece of land, whatever that's worth in the Feywild. Something is going on in the Feywild that's had them at odds since the beginning of their history.
Well, no,
right?
so the part of it too goes by the idea of so with that there's this other thing that we have to talk about if we did when we do a more deity specific video in our world, but the fact of all of our gods having two aspects, the light and the dark, they revere the same god, just different aspects of. So part of it is just the agenda of aggrandizing the aspect of their deity, so it could have more sway in the Prime and in the Feywild sort of deal. So them trying to get the upper hand to have their aspect of their deity being the more predominant one could be a part of it.
Well, and then another part of that actually could be is if one gains sway over the other, the rest of the world may actually want to figure out how to put it back in balance because maybe it breaks stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Eclipses and stuff like that could totally be a part of the thing because it's a celestial deity.
Or hot, unusually warm winters or really cold summer kind of thing.
Well, it's night and day,
occur, right?
It's night and day, but it could.
Well, nights are predominantly
Colder.
Yeah.
So, and dark tends to be associated with cold. So, I mean, you have the moon as well, but
so I would put that all in the same kind of portfolio.
I think I find that naturally that warm.
Well, and
cold
sun
would
and
be,
heat. Yeah, I mean that.
I'm gonna throw this out there. Idea popped in my head with what you guys were saying. If they really if a lot of what they're doing is the focus of this deity, what if there was legitimately some kind of elven artifact that probably not numbers quantifiable, but showed some kind of scale to show what the sway was. So that
it could be like an astrolabe or something.
There could actually be an organization in the world that has that artifact and kind of monitors it. And goes, we got to go help the drow. This is getting out of control.
A druidic order.
Yeah.
A druidic order. Oh, I was also thinking too, with their things that they could have some sort of oath of neutrality with druids, except for if you, unless you actively do something hostile to them, you could maybe heal a party member, but as long as you don't attack them, they won't attack a druid. Sort of just this one of the random fey.
Druids are holy people.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter what side of the fence you happen to fall on.
Right, exactly. Because they are very.
They're Switzerland.
Yeah.
As long as you are visibly, marked. I mean, you can be oh yeah, I'm a druid and I put on my hide armor and I put on my my scimitar, but without some kind of symbol or whatnot.
Well, only druids speak druidic.
Yeah.
Well,
unless they pay somebody. but
say something Druish.
Technically, it's a secret language and you shouldn't be allowed to learn it. But
yeah.
I think other druids would get angry.
What do you think? Instead of an actual physical artifact, what if it's actually a section of landscape? Maybe it's a lake and a mountain peak or something, and as the lake drains and the mountain peak has more ice on it, there's some kind of...
Could be an artifact mountain.
Well, what I'm saying is some kind of natural feature that druids understand as basically being a doomsday clock.
Yeah.
Or a Stonehenge-esque thing.
Yeah. Could be that.
What about a stone table? That'd be totally original.
Oh, yeah. I've never used a stone table before.
No one's ever used a stone table before.
Come on, it's coming at some point.
Oh, yeah. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
So, no, I like it. And, and I like from it, too, we're also building out, a separate organization. So what if our our kingdom of Karshapathon for the elves is actually like a neutral ground. So you can encounter both factions there, and like it's kind of like the keepers are basically the high elves, and then the outlying surrounding villages are basically wood elves.
Yeah. So that would be like
And then
outside of the massive forest thing, or like that will be in the mouth of in the early goings. This is the place where like other civilizations would go to interact, commerce, and this.
Right.
We settled there because we talked before about there being like a gateway to
a connection to the Feywild. So you guys who have not seen our Terrible Terrain video, what we're talking about is basically having this massive forest city that basically grew up with the trees and is in the trees, connected to the Feywild, where the Eladrin and the Drow are from now. Basically it'll be governed by the High Elves. And what did we decide? Basically, it's like a huge fortress in the trees.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, Eladrin and Drow taking up the aristocracy niche.
Yeah.
The governorship is high elves, and then the wood elves are like the wood runners and the.
So I was thinking like the actual city itself is like, it's basically built within a dire redwood.
Yes.
I even think like some mythological of proportions of a redwood, but like like an ash tree or something like that, something that's like more elegant than, because like redwoods, they're big hulking structures, they're big just
well,
trees.
He's saying like either a city, or you could have like a household built within the tree, and they've used ancient magic so that the crafting of the home inside the tree.
No. I actually envision the trees have grown up and have become basically like platforms that they've constructed a city upon. And it doesn't have to look like a redwood. It could absolutely be like a birch or
just
something like
scale.
that.
You're talking scale.
But
in
I'm
either
saying,
case, I would think it would have to be like a more wolfish tree, one of those ones that has large sweeping branches that come out rather than.
I would even say that like the so you have like several trees that grow together, and like
village thing going on.
Well, I was gonna say that the walls of it, they're all made of like shaped wood instead of like any sort of actual, like everything's organic that the construction made of, like that kind of thing. So like all the walls and palisades, it's like a
because originally my thought was a massive ring of these trees that and where the tops have grown out instead of up, that they basically used as a platform, and and perhaps they they built it around the branches and in ways to not harm the trees. But to create this massive structure that shouldn't really be able to exist, and maybe one of the only reasons why it can exist is because of the connection of the Feywild.
Right.
Almost like in Eberron, where Sharn is a city of towers, but the towers are so big, it would be utterly against physics to have a tower that large, except for there's a connection to the plane of air, which allows for the breaking of the rules of physics. So so I was thinking something like that, because something really fantastic.
I like breaking physics. It's fun.
Yeah, I like the fantastic angle.
And then again, what we're talking about is I also love the idea of going, what, everyone has to make the drow. Let's just have them.
Yeah.
Why do they have to be the bastardized, stepchildren of the high elves? Why can't they just be their own thing?
Yeah.
Black is beautiful, man. Black is beautiful. That's all I'm saying.
I would not play a drow. I would play a moon elf, definitely.
Yeah,
just with that change in the background.
they have the same sort of restrictions. They're still evil and do evil things.
No, I don't like evil. I think I like going along the lines of
just they have a blanket alignment.
Is the wolf evil when it kills the rabbit?
Well, no, it's like winter and summer, right? Winter isn't the evil aspect of summer.
No,
winter is the harsh aspect of
like
summer.
The wolf killing the rabbit.
And summer gaining control over winter is just as bad, because things like plague run wild. When hunger or when winter runs wild, things like starvation run wild.
Well, so I feel like both should have like you have the typically such and such alignment. So I think one aspect of the alignment should be more or less fixed, and so the typical member of that group is going to be X, and what's the change between the two group as a representation?
Well, if you're talking about Fae, then the fixed aspect tends to be chaotic.
Yeah. chaotic, but with these weird strictures that they stick
So I
by.
mean, you could say that there is a general perception that because it's harsh, many of the unknown populace thinks that Drow are evil, but it doesn't necessarily mean that culturally that they're all just evil us like bees.
Yeah,
it's
as
like
a racial
being,
trait, they're cold and uncaring.
Right.
It's like, walking around with a giant black robe and a scythe. People are just going to make assumptions
Yeah, people.
that have nothing to do with your personality.
See, I wanted to, because the whole duality aspect of all of our deities, I wanted to be able to split that up between the two courts,
Mm-hmm.
and like give all the darker
That's-
aspects to the
that's
drow,
fine.
to the
Again,
moon.
they're darker aspects, but they're not necessarily evil aspects, right?
Evil. Well, no, because the default is the neutral, and like I wanted things to be either from the dark,
You
like
can-
negative
you-
energy, positive energy.
you can
Negative
have-
is usually on the
Okay,
evil
I see
side.
I see where you're going. With that.
You can have that there without saying that the entire race are evil, bloodthirsty murderers, which is what they.
You need to in the stat block. You need to say typically such and such. Like it's a
Yeah,
part
I understand.
Like,
What you're
most
saying. Are you going to say
people are-
typically neutral?
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what are
Like most people are typically lawful good. Like most humans in everyday society. Like if you're talking about modern times, like in Western civilization, lawful good, neutral good, whatever. Like so you need the log line of like a typical member of this group is that. So
That's why I hate the alignment system.
right. Well, I mean, I'm okay with.
It's a broken part of the game that's been there forever.
I still wanted the dark elves to have the darker aspects of things,
And
But
I
they
and I
don't.
agree. They've
and
got
by dark I mean evil, and like to not mince any words or get any confusion. Because I still want to pay homage to like them being, like their history in the game. I just wanted to tell a different story about it.
Why can't the white elves be evil instead?
The Sun Elves.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the Sun Elves are. I mean, they're agriculture and like basically
growth, right?
Growth. You basically their crops. They're your day-to-day sustenance. So
See, the problem.
I feel like there's a destructiveness that comes from the Night Elves.
I think with the issue with
Who
the
knows?
alignment system in Dungeons and Dragons and what you're talking about right here is that we naturally think of hunger as bad, as savagery as bad, so they're automatically like associated with evil,
Yeah.
right? While they're not going to be like doing terrible evil acts.
So to fulfill the stat block criteria, yeah, let's go ahead and put the evil landmarker on there. But for actual,
because no, I've noticed this about you is you never want to make evil actually evil. Like your villains aren't really that villainous, and I think it's because you have a
Really?
hard time ascribing. Well, I mean, like when,
Okay.
in any discussion we've ever had about such things, in so this is getting into alignment discussion. But like anytime we talk about like Death Knights, you were talking about a Death Knight that didn't kill people. Well, no, a Death Knight has to kill people. He's not evil enough if he doesn't kill people. Like
You ain't get to be a death knight.
Yeah, exactly. Like you have to commit murders. You have to.
you realized I centered a whole campaign on people just blatantly slitting people's throats, right?
Yeah, but I mean, but your conceptions of Death Knight by far were not
No,
evil by a tenth. Like
I was
Get to pull out a knife and stab him. I'll show you evil, you
yeah,
bastard.
how about this?
Is it evil enough?
that's one instance of possibly trying to have something that's different. So let's just move on.
yeah. So, but yeah, you have to. So, and also too, like with the duality, like we need to have factions on either side of this fulcrum.
Well, another point to bring up, we said chaotic, like we just assumed it. Well, are these Fae chaotic? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like they're pretty rigidly.
They hold to certain accords too.
Yeah. So,
But Fae traditionally are chaotic.
bah, Fae are. But
They're
we're
very
talking about
nature.
elves.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
but we're making the Eladrin and the Drow more Fae-like.
Yeah,
as
more
opposed to-
Fae-like, but they're still.
they came right from the Feywild, man. Right off the boat.
Well, I mean, then your options are chaotic good and chaotic evil.
Yeah.
Right, which doesn't
Chaotic.
work either, because
Yeah.
chaotic evil is really a horrible alignment for a society.
Yeah.
Neutrality splitting the balance between the chaos and the law. I mean,
Yeah, but it doesn't give me the.
Well,
right
no,
kind of
but
feel.
neutrality, it makes a certain sort of sense because they are pretty oath bound and like hold a certain like pacts. on
Yeah, so
things.
why wouldn't they be just lawful?
Well, I mean, but
Because it's not on everything. It's only
neutrality-
specific rules.
neutrality splits the difference. between
Okay.
the two.
Oh, so if they were like half and half, then it would be like +1,
Yeah.
-1. You'd get a 0 kind of feel.
Yeah, so I think you do have to go. You have to go with true neutral, so this way you can have neutral good, neutral evil, and then but then here's the thing. Like in regards to their, the celestial accords, they are lawful
Right.
Okay.
because they always follow them.
Right.
Perhaps there's consequences for not following. Perhaps if you don't follow them, that will damn their immortal soul.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking that it could be a thing where they're like locked out.
It
Maybe
could
they're
kick you out of the cycle.
yeah. Maybe
right?
they're locked out of rebirth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like maybe
That's a stiff penalty for
Yeah.
not following the accord.
yeah.
Yeah, or perhaps we make up some kind of crazy undead.
That or them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how
So-
about both?
Well, no,
Let's
that would
do
be both. If you're
both.
Your
undead,
soul is trapped.
if you're
from being reborn.
if you're busy being undead, you cannot be reborn.
yeah.
That would be
Clearly.
double
That'd be
dipping.
like a type of banshee or something.
No, it's got to be something terrible.
And it's got to be cooler than a banshee.
Well, no, I'm
Some-
just
some-
saying
some-
like a banshee is
yeah,
a cur-
yeah,
Some-
it is
some
like
cross
that.
an
between,
accursed,
a nature creature and undead,
like a rotting zombie, like a mushroom zombie,
like a plant,
like an elven
plant
mushroom zombie.
Plant zombie.
We'll have to work
Terrible.
on that
Yeah.
one.
I don't
I'm
know.
not feeling the plant zombie.
How about the elven mushroom zombie?
It could just
All right.
be a spiritual sort of thing.
Let's continue. Yeah,
It doesn't have to be corporal. Yeah. Like it could be some sort of ghost thing.
Like
Could
a
be.
There's,
banshee.
there's plenty of ghost options.
Yeah. Lots of ghost options.
Not enough plant undead.
I really don't like the plan on that idea.
Well, plant would be more of a bonded to this
Ted
world.
and his Mike and
rather-
Ed vampires.
Yeah.
You'd
He's
have
the
a
one
more,
stuck on mushrooms.
you'd be more bonded to the world
I'm thinking something more
rather
shambling
than
around.
if you were a plant rather than an incorporeal being. That's why I'm just thinking like something really physical, like a mushroom zombie.
I'm seeing like a necro shambling mound. That's
I like
Drain-
vampire mushroom zombie.
draining-
Oh,
Yeah.
although
Vampire
the
Lycanus.
idea of their spirit being trapped in something from the physical realm, that might be interesting. I don't know if it's a mushroom or a plant monster, but it's clearly
It could
a
be-
rock.
It could they could be bound to an area where they died, so a glade or a village that ends up becoming isolated because everybody leaves because they're like, oh, forget this, I'm undead's haunting this place.
They turn into undead Trents.
That could be.
So I mean, there's a lot of options there. I mean, we can explore that once we explore the living first and the druid order.
Yeah. So yeah, we shouldn't worry about killing the elves off because we have to figure out what they're doing when they're living.
I like the.
Well, I like that we got the penalty for not following the accords.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a really good there's a really good reason why they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
It diminishes their people as a whole, and they get stuck with a horrible fate for all of eternity.
Yeah. Maybe they get bound into like a pair of manacles or something like that.
That's too much.
I like the undead treant,
Hmm.
since you guys didn't like the vampire mushrooms or zombies.
Apparently, don't like my necro shambling mound either.
Yeah, I'm not the plant thing. I'm just imagining Swamp Thing. I'm just like that.
Eh.
But
Exactly.
undead swamp things.
That's right.
Yeah.
With necro tentacles.
Oh my god! Now it's turning
Yeah,
into an
hentai.
anime, a bad anime.
Yeah.
I think it's time to.
Yeah. Once you start going into bad anime, it's time to cut the video. So with that, you guys, what do you think? Like, comment, share below. You can even subscribe.
You can check us out on nerdarchy.com.
Hit us up on Facebook.
You can also join the conversation over on Reddit.
Until next time, stay
Stay
nerdy.
nerdy.
Good ideas that these Nerdarchy a-holes had about Fae. I got some other ideas about elves from listening to us, so I was inspired by our own content.
Well, not only that too, we also came up with some cool ideas when we were talking about terrible terrain and we the difference between the different kinds of
the different elven
homelands.
kingdoms, and that was like leading off of like, well, there's some things that we could do, and then we just further took those two ideas and smashed them together.
And then there were some things we just decided we wanted to rip off.
yeah, some cool things. And
This is awesome.
well, so I mean, it really started for me for the fact that elves in RPGs nowadays, they just feel too mundane and ordinary. Like the sort of the Tolkien-ish elf, like, but then even like just the D&D elf these days, it's just like being a different ethnicity in the game. It really, they just feel so mundane. So I wanted to do something in our world that really set them apart.
Underdark.
Mhm.
What if they
And converted, and the other important thing is, like, always drow elves were cursed elves of the whatever
Yeah.
variety they
Yeah.
were, right?
Yeah,
They always got the bad
there
end,
were
yeah.
always a split.
Yeah.
We want to take away the split and say no, they were always drow. They were always dark elves. You know, but you know, instead of being dark elves, there are moon elves.
Right.
Because they come out at night because they're nocturnal essentially.
Okay.
They're part of the moon court, and then we have the sun court,
The Court of the Sun, yeah.
which are the high elves or the Ladrin.
Yeah, the Eladrin. So we're doing this idea is kind of, they both came to the Prime from the Feywild. Like, maybe even, we don't have the exact motives of how it
Yeah.
happened, but maybe it's like the Transformer things where, like, either the Autobots or the Decepticons came, and the other's like, well, we can't let them get the upper hand, or we have to watch what they're doing.
Yeah.
So the other one comes too. So you have the two factions of these two courts, these two societies,
Okay.
the Eldrin and Hey guys, Ryan here for Nerdarchy, here with my esteemed Nerdarchists.
Dave,
I'm Ted.
I'm Nate.
and now it's time for an Elfie.
It is. We're gonna take an Elfie. So we were, So we're gonna. This is Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. Getting that to a little late on the draw, but we're gonna get into Elfarchy here because there was some stuff bouncing back and forth, and a concept we
So
had.
we're going back to our world building
Well,
series.
we are going back to world building, and we had this discussion through Facebook Messenger, like on some concepts of elves. Because hey, it was a video that I wasn't on, right? I was listening to you guys talk about Fae in the world. I was like, oh, these are some good.
And I definitely, since we're ripping off the Asili and Unsili, let's go all the way. I want our Mab and our Aurora.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. So this is
Titania.
Titania.
Oh yeah,
So this is the way I see it. You know, we'll pick whichever one decided, first, but it discovers, the prime material, and it says, well, all right, here's this world that, is cultivatable.
You know what? I would think the Moon Elves would go first
yeah.
because conquest is their agenda.
Yeah.
And then like the Sun Elves are like, we have to stop these guys.
well, and here's
Things
my thought, right?
associated.
So this is the part that can be really cool too.
Yeah.
The high elves are like the serfs, and they can actually fall under any court.
Yeah.
So they can actually be in with the drow, or they can be in with the Ladrin, right? And then and then there's like the high elves, like hillbilly cousins,
The
the wood elves, which can.
It made them feel different. So yeah, we can go.
Oh,
from
okay,
there.
so and the trick with that is at the same time of wanting to set them apart and seem different is
We don't want to break the game.
well, we can break the game, but
Right.
no, they still have to feel like part of the world,
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So that is like the balance. That's the ultimate balancing act.
Right.
So we were going back and forth, and really we were talking about modeling the elves off of this Seelie and Unseelie courts.
Right.
So giving more that Celtic and maybe even Germanic mythos that was happening. So like Western Europe thing. Western Europe.
Okay.
Sort of
So
feel.
more away from the drow high elf
Yes and no.
difference, but making it the difference from they're on actually different
So
courts.
no, so what we wanted to do, like the idea was like, okay, so instead of having the drow be in the